your ear holes.
This is Morgan Freeman, and you are listening to one of the most important podcasts ever made in the history of podcasting, the Pocket Party Podcast with my good friend, Darren Carter.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. Yeah. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, listen to a Pocket Party. Pocket Party. Darren.
Oh, yeah, and we're back. Welcome back to the Pocket Party Podcast. If you guys are around, you can check me out October 4th. I will be coming to Solvang, California. Veterans Memorial Hall in Solvang. October 19th and 20th, I'll be at the Dead Crow, North Carolina. November 8th, 9th, and 10th, see me in Reno. And November 23rd and 24th, I'll be at Dicicco's in Fresno. My hometown, Fresno. I remember growing up in Fresno, our newspaper was called the Fresno Bee. And to make, in the real estate section, to make a house seem, like more desirable, they'd be like, it's in Clovis school districts. Oh, it's code for like, come to Clovis. Come to Clovis. Put your kids in the Clovis school district. Yeah, I'll be at the Chico's right after Thanksgiving, that Friday and Saturday. December 14th and 15th and 16th, I'll be up in Sacktown, the Bay Area. I'm back down. Yeah, Sacramento. I'll be at Tommy T's in Rancho Cordova. Oh, man. We got a great one for you today. We got Gary Cannon. He's awesome. So funny. So good. I love this guy, man. Just check him out sometime online. Also, he does the Gentleman's Dojo podcast with Steve Byrne. Do a shout out right now to Jordan Brady, Keith Brower, Rems, Lee Meyerhofer, Jim Bryan Music, Curtis Marsh. If you guys have a theme song that you want to create, you don't have to do the cover. I have a couple covers. It'd be nice if you did a cover. Send it to pocketpartypodcast@gmail.com. I will play it and plug your band, or if you know someone in the band. I want to come up with. I would love to have a lot of. Cache. There you go, cache. I would like to have a cache of theme songs where I can pop in different theme songs and give, help to other artists who are trying to get themselves out there and get more exposure. Speaking of exposure, the biggest thing you guys can do to help this podcast is tell a friend that you enjoy it. Give them a specific episode to start them out with. Also, please give it 5 stars and a review. I know people, and I don't think their podcast is all that good. And they're on those charts. They're on the iTunes charts. It's super important on iTunes to give it 5 stars and a review. Even if you just write it's cool. You could write a small review, But just I think the fact that people are putting effort into putting a review helps tremendously. So there you go with that. What else have I been doing? I love the Guinness Book of World Records. It was my favorite book growing up. I remember I'd go to the library as a kid. And it was always checked out. They're like, oh, sorry, you got to come back in a week. And it's like, damn it, I love the Guinness Book of World Records. And I don't know if it was just the times back then, because Brady Bunch would have, episodes where they were trying to break the world record, or they're always doing something. I remember Happy Days it wasn't the Guinness Book of World Record, but Happy Days had an episode where they were trying to dance all night, and how long could they keep dancing. But I remember that book, and I remember thinking, I was going to try to break some records, let me see how many pull-ups I can do, and that kind of thing. And I remember, I think at the time, it might have been one, it was 107, but that was for one-arm pull-ups or something. I'm probably wrong about that, but it was one-arm pull-ups, 107 or something. And I'm like, what else could I do? I'm like, I know, I'll just create my own thing, pogo stick jumping or something. It was funny because my son recently got the Guinness Book of World Records. My son, Austin, who you've heard on the podcast. I've interviewed him a couple times. It's in the details. And also he does the theme song for the podcast. He's 10 years old. He's going to be 11 this month. It's awesome. Congratulations. Big shout out to Austin Carter, who got voted class president. That's right. Beautiful. Love you, son. What a kid, man. he's inspiring. If you're a father, isn't it great to be inspired by your children? He and I will be like competitive when it comes to like that kind of thing. Like we were doing like some kind of pull-up challenge, or we did like some kind of dip challenge, like who can hang the longest on this bar or whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna beat you, Dad. It's so cool. Anyways, back to this Guinness Book of World Records. The way it looks now, it's bright and shiny, and it's a huge book, and it looks like something you'd see on your coffee table. When we were growing up, it was like this thick book that looked like the Farmer's Almanac or something. It's all black and white, a lot of text, not a lot of colorful pictures. His book is so much more modern now. And I don't know if yours has as many Guinness Book of World Records, like mini records like ours did. And he goes, oh no, Dad, it has almost all the records in there. Well, except for one, because Mom said you were the world's most annoying person, and I looked it up, and you weren't in there. Oh, touche. See, I got a funny household here, man. Yeah. Big shout out to my wife. Anyways, you guys, thank you for the shout outs. Thank you for the review. If you look at the details and you want to support this podcast with more than just ratings and reviews and telling a friend, there's a donate button where you could subscribe financially and throw me like $1 or whatever it is, whatever you feel like doing. Think of it as we're hanging out at a bar and you're like, Darren, let me buy you a coffee or a drink or something, and that's basically what it is, and it'll keep me motivated to keep these popping. I'm snapping my fingers right now, popping, motivated, keep the podcast coming. I love feedback, so give me feedback. Let's make this venture better together. I mean, I'm always learning. I know, like somebody told me that the sound, like the songs, are louder than the actual intros and the conversation, and I'm learning how to do that, but I don't know how to do it. It's probably super simple, but I don't know how to do it yet. So until then, as long as it's loud, I figure people can dial their button, they can make the volume louder and quieter on their own. If you see me live, come get one of my comedy albums. I'm selling comedy albums. And of course, if you listen to the podcast, you get it half off, man. I might even just throw it to you for free. Why not, right? I mean, shit, you're listening to the podcast. I also have t-shirts now. The t-shirts are only for sale now live at the live shows. But for you guys, I'll probably just give you one. It says Party Starter. But I want to take this podcast to that next level. So please keep supporting, and let's get us up there on those charts on iTunes. 5 stars, a rating, a review. Also, the YouTube channel is Darren Carter. I put the podcast on the YouTube. If you guys have someone in your life that doesn't know how to do podcasts or download them, just tell them, go to YouTube, look up Darren Carter. Most of them are on there. I'm taking my time. I think I put the first 20 on there, and I'm going to continue to put them up. But that takes about 3 hours out of my night to put those up. But you guys are worth it every second. Aww. Anyways, let's get into it, you guys. Thank you very much. Join the Facebook group. It's go to Facebook, search Pocket Party Podcast, Darren Carter Pocket Party Podcast, and come join us over there. I want to make that a place. And I know it takes a while. Someone told me it takes like 3 or 4 months for the thing to really get popping. If you know how to do memes, if there's anything that we're talking about and you're like, oh yeah, make a meme of it or something, so we could be like these other popular podcasts like Chris D'Elia, Joe Rogan, all that good stuff. All right, you guys, let's get into the podcast right here, right now. Talk to you soon.
Pocket Party.
And we're back. Very excited to have today's guest. I've been wanting to get him for a long time. I love his podcast. He's got a great gig, warm-up guy for Conan. You know him from TV and film, and one of the main, if you come to LA and you go out to comedy clubs, you'll see him. And he's absolutely one of the funniest guys that keeps Facebook funny for me. Please welcome Gary Cannon.
Oh, thank you. I had no idea I was in film, but thank you so much for trumping up my credit. I appreciate it. Yes.
You haven't been in films yet?
No. I do.
You will be.
I'm primarily behind the camera doing the audience warm-up for Conan, and I'm actually working on a new show here in LA. It tapes Friday nights on the Fox lot. It's called Cool Kids. And I don't know if you've seen a lot of the billboards for it, but it's with an older cast: David Alan Grier, Martin Mull, Vicki Lawrence. So that show is going to start airing September the 28th, Friday nights, on Fox after Last Man Standing.
Wow.
Just couldn't be any more excited.
Dude, that's great.
It's great. It's a good gig.
Do you get excited for different shows that you warm up, or is there like a different level of?
Listen, I will say this: there are sitcoms, especially that you go into, and they call you up and they say, "Hey, we want you to do 6 of them or 12 of them, whatever it is," and as you're filming it or as you're up in the audience, you're like, "There's no way this show's coming back. There's just no way." And as much goodwill as there is amongst the cast and the crew, and you want the show to come back because there's good people working on it, you're dead in the water.
Like,
you just know.
You're like, let me just enjoy craft service.
Just enjoy it. I have a great feeling about this show. I really do. It's crazy because I thought I worked on the Dr. Ken show with Ken Jeong for 2 seasons. That was on ABC. I thought for sure that was going to come back for a 3rd season, but you never know. Sometimes it might not be the numbers. The ratings might be okay, but it's going up against something else. They want to put something else in there. You don't know what you're going up against. And it's almost just like comedy, Darren. Like, you don't know who's going to get the next Showtime special, who's going to get the next Netflix special. It's very subjective. You just don't know. So I count my blessings for what shows I have. Things are okay. I mean, there's other warm-up guys in town, guys like Ron Pearson, Mark Sweet. Those guys work 2, 3, 4 days a week doing great sitcoms and making a great living. I feel like, I'm kind of the 3rd tier guy behind all those guys, which is still good because there's still work available.
Yeah.
But
because those guys are working, it can't be everywhere.
They can't be everywhere. There's so many, but it is funny. They can't be everywhere, but it almost seems like they can be everywhere. It's like, hey, we're going to shoot this sitcom on a Sunday morning at 6 a.m. so we can accommodate so-and-so's schedule. And it's like, damn it. You know what I mean? You're just...
Really?
Yeah. Like,
that's cool. They'll work around a warm-up acts.
There was my buddy,
that's awesome.
My buddy Roger Lundblade, who's one of the top guys. He did a couple of shows, and the producers were like, "We want to get Roger," and Roger had shows Tuesday and Friday. Those are the 2 big nights that shows tape, Tuesdays and Fridays. And they said, "We'll shoot it on Wednesday for you." I mean, that's staying power. That's awesome. They're foregoing what the cast schedule is, what the executive producer schedule is, like what's
director,
the warm-up
all that
schedule.
good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good position to be in.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, that'd be funny if they're like, "How are these extras? Are you guys available?"
Yeah, are you guys available on Wednesday afternoon? So, yeah, Cool Kids. I'm excited about it. That premieres in September. I do Conan, but actually as of October 4th, we're going to be taking some time off because Conan is doing a big stand-up tour. He's going around the country with some people, and the show is transitioning then to a 30-minute format as of January the 1st. So we're going to take some time off. He's going to do the tour. They're going to revamp the show a little bit, switch the set, get ready for the new half hour. That'll start up in January. So once October 5th hits, I'll have some time off from Conan, which is good and bad. I mean, obviously we don't get paid for the weeks that we're off, although they were super nice and helped out and threw in some paid weeks that we weren't working, which makes it nice.
That helps.
It makes all the difference. They're just such good people. That's what they do. And I'll have the other gig, the sitcom, which will run through the end of the year. And if the ratings are good when it starts to air, they'll pick up what's called the back 9, and we'll start filming that almost immediately. So that's good.
That's awesome, man. What how many warm-up guys do you think there are in town? Or do you have any idea? Or is it just,
listen, there's a lot of guys who claim to be warm-up. They claim to also be comics. There's, that. I mean, it's any club, any time of the day or night. But I would say maybe there's 10, 12, something like that, with 80% of them doing most of the work. Yeah. Wow. Then there's a lot of lower tier guys. Like, you'll see these shows that an MTV show that's filming a game show. MTV's filming a game show that's taking 8 hours to film, and you'll find out the warm-up guy was some guy named Rich Jones, and you're like, who? Yeah. And it's like, well, that's the guy they could get for $13 for an 8-hour day. That was it. Because no way an established guy's going to go in there for $13. Because those shows that pay the least are just the biggest ball busters out there. So you just don't take those gigs anymore.
I've done warm up like 10 times, and it was all back in the day. It's been a long time since I did it, and it was different types of shows. And I was doing, like you said, I was entry level, like, I would get a call from my manager at the time, and she would be like, "Hey, do you want to come do this thing?" And I remember like it was the low level ones were hard because it was like. It was a game show pilot, so no one's seen the game show. I didn't even know if it's going to go anywhere.
The minute you hear It's funny.
Yeah.
If you hear the word game show, run. If you hear the word pilot, run. Now you're combining game show and pilot.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of there.
Something
because
that's totally new to the audience.
it's new to the audience. They bring in
Yes.
a busload of paid audience members that don't want to be there.
I think they're getting like $40 cash or something.
$40 at the end of
and
the day.
I think they just got out of. Then they actually had more experience than I had. Like
Because they're friends. They know.
Yeah.
Yep. If you do it, there's a warm up guy that makes the joke. If you want to kill time and do a talent contest to just kill time in between commercial breaks, there's eventually a guy that will pop up and say, Ray is the guy that sings. Linda's the guy that dances. Like they just know, they know all of their cronies, and that's what they do, and that's how they make a living. And I've done shows where years and years later, you run into some paid audience members, and they're the same ones that you knew from when I started back in 2005. You're like, what, you're really here? Like, what's going on?
This is your gig? You're like,
this is your gig.
Yeah.
And some people do it well. They're professional audience members, but good.
Are those tough too when it's like when the audience already knows that Linda can sing? Are they like, oh boy?
They're not invested at all.
They're like, come on, Linda, sing, and everyone's looking. Especially back when I was doing it, they didn't even have phones. Now, do people stare at their phones? Or they?
Well, a lot of times they'll take the phones,
Okay.
so they can't. But
That's good.
The problem with like a game show or a pilot nobody knows, but a game show. Look at all these shows like a Deal or No Deal or the new Joker's Wow with Snoop Dogg. If you look, that audience is standing and hooting and hollering. Beat Shazam, another great show.
That's a good show, though.
It's a good show, but the audience is forced to just be up on their feet yelling and like.
And who
you
does
really
it? The
think
warm-up guy gets him to do that?
that's what that's the job.
And is it because there's a DJ there that's supplied by the TV show? Or
The idea behind it is, and I learned this a long time ago. If I'm sitting at home watching and the audience is having a great time, I'm looking over like, why aren't I having a great time? Like it was the whole kind of George Lopez concept of like, hey, why are these people on their feet for the George Lopez late night TV block party? It was because of that. Like, if you're just sitting there in an audience, by the way, watch shows like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, even some of the older shows on Game Show Network that are rerunning now, Old Family Feud. They don't have those people up hooting and hollering, dancing. Even the contestants, it's so phony.
Yeah.
Just the yelling and the screaming, and and that's all of these shows. That's what they're looking for.
You're
it's
like,
all about personality. Louder,
come
louder.
on, let's go louder.
So the last thing you want to do is get to a game show set. Nobody knows the show. They tell you, "Hey, wear this earpiece because we want to, be able to communicate with you through the booth." And they're just yelling at you that the audience isn't loud enough. Now you're dealing with a show nobody's heard of. You're dealing with a show that's taking 8 hours to film. You're dealing with shitty audience members. So it's a long day.
So they're like, Gary, get the crowd,
going.
Get them going, buddy.
And
get them going.
Add all that into the pot, and then them tell you there's little money. So it's a combination. I mean, and I will say that. And there were times, believe me, that I didn't have a lot of shows. I wasn't working that much. And I'll never forget, years and years ago, one of the shows that I got a call to do was, do you remember the Jerry Springer dating show called Baggage?
No, but I can imagine already what it's going to be like.
It's a silly concept, but Jerry Springer hosted the show. It was called Baggage.
Yeah.
And they would film 3, 4, or 5 episodes in a day. Yeah, they would film 5 in a day. 3 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. There was a guy that was doing it. He couldn't do it. They called me. The money was ridiculously low. But I was like, I need the money. Drove from Santa Monica to Van Nuys. That's where the studio was. And I remember getting there, and the minute I walked in, audience members complaining, my chair hurts, this music stinks, don't you have better candy? And you quickly realize, that what I know now, you're the substitute teacher, and they're going to pull as much as they can get away with that they can. Bitching, complaining. So
because you're also the liaison.
You're the liaison.
They can't tell the people that are behind the camera.
And the problem is the audience was good enough and decent, but again, the producers and the contestant coordinators, everybody thinks that this audience should be an Ellen 12 Days of Christmas audience. These people are in a haze. They probably just doped up before they got into the studio. No joke. I mean, you're dealing with the lowest. You know what I mean?
No, I remember on that MTV game show pilot, it was like, I think they get $40 cash, and they wanted. I think they were just. I was like, I think they're just gonna go get drugs right now. Like that was the vibe I got.
Well, again, those are 3 words that any of those words individually, but yet all together, MTV game show pilot, absolutely not. The minute one of those words is uttered. So what happened at Baggage was the audience I thought was relatively decent, and the money was garbage. And I just remember working my butt off, and somebody comes up to me during the show and just said, "These guys are bad. What's going on? These guys are bad." And I was like, "I think they're good. I think they're giving us as much as they can. This is what we're working with." And the guy just kept on me. And I finally just said, "Hey, listen," I said, "we both know the money on this show stinks. We both know that." I said, and I couldn't believe, and it's one of my favorite stories that I had the balls to do this. And again, I had no money, so I needed the gig. I said, we have 3 options. I said, we can go one of 3 ways. I said, you can keep the money the same way. Don't budget, but leave me alone the entire day. 2, you can triple my money, but then you can bark at me as much as you want. Or 3, we shake hands and part company, and I'll be home before 2 o'clock. And it took guts because I didn't.
What did he do? Did he pause?
He paused for a second. He said, "Let me go check in with somebody." And he came back and he said, "We're going to let you go for the day." Yeah. And I said, "No problem." I see this so much. Never forget, I was working on another show, another pilot, a talk show pilot.
Yeah.
And the pilot was called, I think it was called XO Project. And the idea was 5 women, very similar to The View or The Talk. They were putting together a sizzle reel. So it was just all of these women together, and they were just shooting all day to probably put together a 5-minute sizzle reel of what the show would look like if these 5 women, these 5 nobodies hosted a show.
Yeah.
Just nobodies, right? I couldn't pick one out of the lineup. So it was going great, everything good, no problem. I was happy that I took the gig despite not wanting the gig because I knew it was going to be a long day. Here's where it turned. During the lunch break, and again, by the way, not one note came from a producer all morning, not one note. During the lunch break, I overheard a producer saying, the women on the panel aren't gelling. They're not connecting. The vibe is off. They're not getting along. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. I get back from lunch. Some woman walks up to me. "Are you the warm-up guy?" I said, "Yep." She said, "This audience sucks. They suck." And I said, "Excuse me?" And she's like, "Yeah, they're terrible." She's like, "You need to get them going. You need to this." And then she's like, "And what about this music? This music stinks too." And I said, "Wait a minute, is it me or the music? I'm confused." So she said, "I want this audience up, this, that, and the other thing." She turns her back to me, and I give her the old, just this condescending laugh.
Yeah.
She turns back to me, keeps walking.
Yeah.
I call the producer that hired me, or the line producer, and I said, "I don't know who that woman was, but if her or anybody gets in my face for the rest of the day, I'm gone." I said, "We both know this money's garbage, and you need to leave me alone." And I think at that point, they kind of let you go because, at the end of the day, the truth is, you can say to yourself, "Oh, well, you don't want to burn that bridge, but I don't want to be in business with these people anyway." There's thousands of other shows that might not pay that well, but they treat you great.
Yeah.
I've worked on a lot of shows where they don't have a big budget, but you come in, they treat you like a gentleman. Dinner, what can we do for you? What can we do to make your job better? That's it. And
so I guess what happens is you get the confidence to know that this
100%.
It's not like I did that and they're going to tell all of Hollywood and I'm screwed.
And it's funny.
That it's not like all connected. It's like
the comic Jeff Dye.
Yes.
He had a game show that he was filming up in Santa Clarita, and I jumped in on that. Right from the word go, I knew it was a bad vibe. Right from the word go. And I even told Jeff, I said, "Don't be mad if you don't see me later this afternoon because I'm about to lose it on somebody." And he said, "I get it. Don't worry." And the director came up to me and he just said, "The crowd's bad." And I was like, "This is as good as we're going to get them. We're in Santa Clarita on a Tuesday. These are thugs." And he just said, "I don't agree." And I said, "Maybe you need somebody different for this job." I said, "Maybe it's not me." I said, "But, we can I do that line, like we'll just part ways and no hard feelings." And I think you throw them for a loop. They don't know what to do. I think they're just caught off guard. Like, wait, what? And he even said to me, he's like, "Why are you so defensive?" And I was like, "This is the best we're going to get. They really, these shows, they think they have lightning in a bottle. They think people are going to care about 5 unknown women talking about child rearing, this game show. And I love Jeff, but like, it's a show nobody knows. It's all of these, baggage with Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
So when they say the crowd, oh man, this crowd's terrible. Like they're not saying it like they're your friend. Like they're no, they're not on your side. They're not like in other words, like your reaction might be like, yeah, I know, man. Boy, they don't want that. They want like, this audience is bad. You need to change that. You need to get them into a good place.
And listen, here
is what they're trying to say.
Yes, but they do it in such a derogatory, arrogant way that if they were to come over to me and be like, hey, listen, boy, oh boy, this audience, not that great, but like, any thoughts of what we could do to pump them up more? Should we go get you gift cards?
Yes.
Do you need more candy? Do you need more
I like
this?
that. See, that's
whatever,
good.
But to come over to me, and I don't go into the booth and tell the director that he's not getting the right shots. You hire me because I'm pretty good at what I do. So don't start, throwing arrogance around like this audience. Blah, blah, blah. It's like,
and also, I got to be honest. It's like it probably. I would feel a little bit more emotional because I'm like, I know it's a bad audience. I'm out there trying to get them going, and it's not working. It's like when I've had sets where there's a lot on the line. It's a showcase or it's something, and I know that it's not my best work, my best show, but it's still, I pulled it off. But and then that all you need is that one person to sort of, not really condescending, but that's the way I'm taking it. So how do you think you did?
Of course.
And it's that kind of thing. And you're like, what do you mean how do I fucking think I did?
There was a warm-up guy that used to warm up sitcoms, and he would literally spend an hour after each show on the floor convincing the producers that the audience was bad. Like that's how he was best at doing that. Not a great warm-up, but was good at like, boy, that audience stunk, right? They were bad. There's nothing worse than doing a 5-hour sitcom where 20 minutes into the show, they're pulling your leg, somebody on the floor pulling your leg pant and saying, these guys are bad. And she's like, yeah, I'm here with them, I know. But like, there's certain things that you can do to pump them up a little bit. But like, at the end of the day, let's just get through this. I mean,
who provides, like, let's say I get a warm-up gig.
Yep.
And, okay, it's my, like I said, did it back in the day 10 times. What should I get? What should I do the night before? Should I go get candy? Should I get gift cards?
Well, listen, it depends.
How does that work?
It depends what the show is. I mean, I always like, first of all, if it's about, if you're going to be running your own music, I like to make sure I have enough music.
Like, how do you, and what music do you get?
Well, it depends on the show. Like, I just did The Bachelor, so it was a lot of young and old. It was a lot of Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
You put the music on a CD, a disc, or a
on my phone
drive,
and let it run.
Oh,
so you have those kind of classics
on your phone and let it run.
Yeah,
that's
but
cool.
it's on airplane mode, so it's like if it goes off, right?
Gary, you have another gig,
exactly.
a better gig.
But you have a lot of like just newer, stuff that the audience likes. But if I'm doing an older show, I'll do all older music. But most shows will provide the music. And again, certain shows don't need candy. I'd always ask them if they have a budget for gifts. Obviously certain shows are brand new, so they don't have gifts.
Yeah.
Can you throw me an extra? Because it's all different line items. Like, here, we'll pay you this amount of money, but we can't afford a penny more. Okay, well, you can't afford a penny more, but can you afford another 100 for me to go out and buy gift cards for the audience? And most times they'll allow it because it's a different line item.
And what do you do? Where do you get the gift cards? Starbucks $5 gift cards?
Yeah, I do Starbucks, In-N-Outs, popular as hell. The problem with In-N-Out, as you know, there's never a good time to go to In-N-Out to buy those gift cards. I've walked into so many In-N-Outs, Darren. There's been nobody in there. I'll go in at 10 in the morning when it first opens.
Yeah.
Can I get $10 gift? Can I get 10 $5 gift cards? First of all, they have no idea where the gift cards are, no matter how many times I've gone into one. They're in some back storage alley that nobody knows of. By the time they come back up to the front, there's 30 people deep, one person swiping, swiping, and I'm like, these people are pissed. There's just no way of getting around it. So,
That's hilarious.
Starbucks is a good one, In-N-Out, Chipotle, certain ones, you know what I mean?
We should go off the beaten path, like Del Taco, Carl's Jr. That'd be interesting,
Yeah,
right?
those are good. I would go Little Caesars if they had them.
But you're right, though. There's something about, if I got an In-N-Out gift card, I'd be like, wow, like you just said, I didn't even know they had these. This is amazing.
Well, it's funny. My buddy Roger does a funny thing. He's like, I'm passing out gift cards. Some have 25, some have 15, some have 10, some have 5. And they're like, rather, they all have 5. You know what I mean? Like, there's no.
Oh, that's good.
There's no, like not. I actually have a great. I have a great story for you.
Good.
This is a true story. Years ago, when I worked at Carson Daly, we would do a dance contest, and it was always 2 hot chicks and some guy in his 50s from Omaha. Always 2 hot girls and a guy.
That's how you would pick it?
That's how I'd pick it. 2 hot girls and a guy who stood out immediately.
Yeah.
So I always gave T-shirts away, and then I think the winner was always the guy. Didn't matter what the girl did, but the winner was always the guy, which made it funny.
Oh, who made the winner? You did or the audience did?
Yeah, because everybody wants to see a guy dancing dopey rather than 2 hot chicks who know what they're doing, right?
So you're like,
the
I
guy
think the
always
winner,
won.
we got William.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I always gave away a T-shirt and a gift card to El Pollo Loco to the guy, right?
Yeah.
So one day I was running late for Carson. I go in El Pollo Loco to buy a gift card. The line is backed up to the door. I'm like, shoot, I got to get out of here. I grab a blank gift card. Okay, I grab a blank one. Before the show starts, I'm starting to interact with the audience. Before I even get a microphone, I find out that this couple, husband and wife, are there with their daughter, and they're visiting from Pittsburgh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh in 3 weeks, the Pittsburgh Improv. Take my number. Would love to have you guys out as my guest. Perfect. I happen to pick the guy for the dance contest. He comes down with the 2 girls. He wins. Obviously, I give him the gift card. Walk away. I'm back in Santa Monica. I'm at the grocery store. I get a call from a 412 number. Like, who's this? Gary, this is James. We just met you at the Carson Daly Show. We're actually at El Pollo Loco right now, and the gift card you gave us doesn't work. He was bringing his family to El Pollo Loco. I don't know if he was thinking there was $50 on it, $10. I don't know.
Oh.
But then he says to me, "Is there somebody here at the restaurant you can talk to clear up this mess?" I'm like, "Clear up this." First of all, then I realized there was no money on it. I'm like, "I don't know what you want." Like,
you didn't want to tell him? Oh,
I didn't want to tell him. Also, the last thing I need him to do is calling the show.
Oh, shit.
Complaining that this was a big snafu.
Yeah.
So I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened." Boom, 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 and then just kind of like glossed over it. And then literally said, "Hey, I'll see you in Pittsburgh," and he never called me again.
Thank God.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that number. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" Hey, and then just bailed. Yeah, so funny.
You know what? I don't know if it's your accent, but when you said the name of that restaurant,
El Pollo Loco? El Pollo Loco? What is it?
I think it's El Polo. I think it's El Pollo Loco. El Pollo. Because in Spanish, LL is a Y sound. I always call El Pollo Loco. But
Yes,
it sounds like
I think you're right on it, though.
I think you were saying like polio.
El Pollo. I think I am. How do you say it?
El Pollo Loco. El Pollo Loco.
You almost blend in the 2 last ones together.
El Pollo Loco.
Almost polio. Not polio. Polio.
El Pollo Loco. El Pollo Loco.
Yeah.
I never go there though, so
I think it's a good place, but I
go to the Thai Room Restaurant, 821 North Hollywood Way, sponsor of the Pocket Party Podcast.
Is that true?
True. It is
nice.
true.
Okay.
Hey, if you're ever in Burbank, you want to have lunch, it'll be on me, man.
Where are we going? The Thai
called
place?
the
Wait a minute. You're saying you get a freebie there.
Yeah, the Thai
Wait a minute.
Room.
I want to go to a place you don't get the freebie
The
at.
Thai Room.
It can't be on you if you're getting a
I know.
freebie.
It'll be on me.
Yeah. Come to my parents' restaurant. I'll take you out to lunch. What a bullshit statement this is. Yeah. My parents own a restaurant. I'll take you out for pasta.
I got a $25 lunch for you. I got a $10 lunch for you.
I got a $10. It's luck of the draw. You see how that
the
scratches
Thai
off.
Room. It popped up. I guess we're going to the Thai Room again.
Yeah. How did that happen? Yeah. You can't offer a free lunch when you have a free lunch.
Here's the thing, too. If I'm not in town or if we're not around and you want to go there, tell them you want the Darren. This is you and the listeners. They want the Darren Carter Friend Special.
Yeah.
And you get the Friend Special. The Darren Carter Friend Special. Seriously, it's below market price on the menu, and usually they'll throw in extra stuff.
Really?
For real. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. My friend hit me up. I was at the boxing gym, and he goes, "Hey, I went to the Thai Room." And he's like, I don't want to say exactly what it was on the thing because I don't want them to get in, trouble or whatever because, I don't know what they're allowed to give away and stuff. But they gave away a bunch of cool stuff. And then they below the menu price, and also they hooked them up with like Thai I think either Thai coffee or Thai iced tea.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Every time I go there, man, they're always like, now it's at the point where I'm like, let me just get my food and go because they'll be like, oh, you got to try this, you got to try that. And I'm like, I'm trying to lose weight here. Like,
yeah.
Well,
it's funny because all my friends were razzing me because you said to me, we should hang out, we should go hiking, we should this and that. And they're like, have you seen Gary? Like, he's not the hiker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you were headlining.
Like,
that's right. At
yeah,
Flappers.
Gary's more about, hey, you want to go see a movie? Yeah.
Because
that's right, we were here.
Yes, I go, hey, this Tuesday or Thursday, I go, of coming week, do you want to go jogging? We can go to Griffith Park. And they're
People
all
were
like,
laughing at us.
They thought I was like roasting you. I mean, no, I'm serious. Like,
yeah. People know that I'm not doing that. Yeah. But you did change that up and said, You said something like we could go for a walk, which I think made more sense.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's. Yeah, hey Gary, you want to go sprinting with me?
Yeah. Want to go decathloning with me? That's not happening. Absolutely not happening.
Did you? I think you were gonna like when we. The reason I brought that up was I think you started a diet or some exercise program.
I did. I started Weight Watchers a couple months ago. I was on and off. I'm trying to get back on it now again. I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to, it's all. Everybody thinks it's, either eating good or it's really eating and exercise. I mean, if I can do, it's crazy. I kind of lose it on the road a little bit. You know that it's kind of so hard.
I know.
But but I'm active most of the day. I'm rarely sitting around doing that. I'm pretty active most days trying to keep busy. So, I always think moving is a good thing for me.
It is. You know what? I think also it's getting your mind right, because it's real easy just to say F it, like for me, like,
so much easier,
because I can be like home at night and just like, especially when I was like I got on the scale a couple of weeks ago and I was finally under 200 pounds. I was like it was like barely there. It was like 199.5.
Okay.
And I'm like, yes. And all I needed was that to kind of like propel me to, I'm like, you know what? I got to get serious again. Let me see if I can do this. And I'm not saying I stopped eating, because my weakness is eating late at night, but I didn't stop eating late at night, but I would have my last meal 4-5 hours, maybe even more, before I went to bed, as opposed to, I would eat pretty healthy during the day. And then like at 1 a.m, I'm like home and I'm sitting in front of the computer making a sandwich and putting peanut butter and crackers. And that's where the calories are. Like right before I go to sleep, it's like, what am I doing?
But when you're on the road, can you still pull that?
The road is a little harder. I can, like I said, once again, do good during the day. Like, get the apples down in the hall. And I bring my own food a little bit. Like I'll bring like protein bars and almonds, trail mix. That way when I wake up, at least I have something. So I'm not like starving. Because there's nothing worse than like, it's like 2 PM. You're like, okay, I got to get something. And then you're just like
eating a big meal.
Yeah. And then you're waiting for the.
Awful.
You're trying to time it out so then you can eat at the club again. And then maybe after you're set, another thing. And it's just like, that's when it goes to.
And it's hard. Yeah. It's hard because once you start putting weight on, so hard to take it off.
Yeah, and then you're like, F it too. And you're just like, whatever. But I don't want to be like I don't want to be like because one time I was doing push-ups, and it was funny. My friend goes, hey, it was actually it was an older, it was my father-in-law. He made a joke, but he's kind of right though, especially his era. He was like, yeah, a fat comedian's funnier than one with muscles. And I was like, gosh, it's...
Oh, that's funny.
I was like, I see your point. And I was kind of like,
Listen,
that kind of gave me the green light to be like, he's right. But I don't...
You wonder if a lot of comics would be as good if they were thinner, like some of those, you know what I'm saying? Like, would Ralphie have been as successful if he were a thin guy?
You wonder, huh? Because
I don't know.
It was like a persona and a thing. But then again,
Sure.
Thank God we have like guys like Joe Rogan, like who kind of let it's okay to work out and do kettlebells, and even guys like I don't have that kind of body. I don't think I ever would, like Chris D'Elia, because he's got that leaner kind of like. But it kind of shows you like comedy comes in all forms physically.
Absolutely.
And I know that I want to like. I mean, I go to that boxing gym and I love exercise. I love it. The eating part is the harder part, for me.
Right.
It's like I'm like, all right, but I think it's just like taking the baby steps. And then eventually, like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to like, it's maybe that's something you could do. You could bring like some almonds, some protein bars, maybe a few apples. That way, at least you have something in your room. So you're not.
And I do think this. I think once you get into the groove of eating better, working out, like, it definitely comes easier then. Like, because you feel the results, you start feeling more clear-headed, you feel better. It makes all the difference.
You'll start getting compliments. People are like, Gary, what are you looking good? What are you doing?
100%.
Well, I've been eating bananas and oatmeal or whatever the heck, and
that makes it definitely makes all the difference.
You know what I do too is on Instagram I follow a lot of like boxers and people at the gym, or like and people with like motivation, and it just, so it's constantly a stream of positivity, like and motivation. So I'm like, and that can go the same way negatively. Like, I know guys that like I've talked to them and they're like, dude, I got to take Bumble off my phone because they're just sitting there in downtime, just swiping, looking at girls, and then,
Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. Just like if you're going to look at stuff, put something in your mind that's going to like propel you for what you like.
100%.
To at the end of the day, it makes you positive. Like I saw this quote and I printed it out and I put it on the wall with it's a Socrates quote, believe it or not, and it said something like, what a shame, I forget exactly how it goes, but basically it's like, what a shame it is for a man to what a shame it is for a man to never know the grace and beauty and strength for which his body is capable. Something like that.
Oh, wow.
So I thought, like, I'm going to be 50 in no time, and it's like I want to know like what it's like. I want to be able to like finally, am I ever going to get that six pack? I'm going to try.
Right.
Yeah,
you're always active though. You're always doing something.
Yeah, I mean it's just part of my like what I like to do. And
Right.
I also like to be a good example for my son. Like over the summer, he was making little challenges. He's like, "Dad, I'm going to do 200 push-ups a day," and it was like it's pretty cool. Like we'd be in bed, my wife and I, and from the living room at like 7 a.m. we hear.
Would you really? That's great.
Yeah, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like doing his push-ups and he's doing like his burpees and his like sit-ups, and then he goes over to the piano and starts playing the piano.
But you're also a guy too that like you're out all the time. Like I think you probably are one of the hardest working guys out there.
Thank you. I am, man. It's
I mean,
I am out there a lot. I'm not if I'm one of the hardest working guys,
But is that just? I mean, like, what's the idea? Because I'm almost the other extreme. I'm almost like once I'm in. I can't. It's very difficult to get motivated to go out and do shows. So what is your motivation behind that?
sometimes it depends on what it is. Like if I'm putting, because I have 4 comedy albums, that I put out, and I want to get ready for the 5th one. So what I'll do is I'll have my bits, and I'm like, okay, if I can get on stage tonight, I can craft those and make those a little bit tighter, and then I kind of look at it like I'm putting them in the bank. Okay, I know that bit works. Let's put that away. Now let's go work on this next thing.
Right.
So I can. That's what gets me excited. Just to go out and get laughs and do something I already know works doesn't really. I mean, I've done it, but it's like, what I mean? It's like, it feels way better to, work on something new or new that I haven't released yet.
How do you? It's so weird. How do you get booked for stuff that you do? Is it management, your own legwork? Like, what's your?
Probably all of that. Like, not really management, more like my agent will do some work. Me putting out those emails and calls, which is still, it's kind of like, I realize you have to do it all. Because I used to just rely on the agents. And then you realize, like, they're not going to do it all. Or I would just hand stuff over to them. And, I mean, they're busy with other clients and things fall through the cracks. And
Right.
so I kind of, like, I make sure that I also, like, stay in, contact with people. You don't want to bug them too much, though, right? But then you got to, like, the squeaky wheel gets the...
Of course.
So you got to... Like,
what's the difference between being too aggressive or too persistent and then being nagging?
Right, and then there's times where I just back off, and I'm like, you know what, just
right.
If they want me, they want me.
It's
like,
one club.
I need to, like,
who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like
100%.
And in the meantime, I put up stuff on my YouTube channel every week, and I do the podcast every week, and Instagram daily, and Twitter daily. So you're out there, and things catch on. How doesn't it feel great? Like when you put something out there and it gets retweeted.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool. People know I'm out there, and then I think it gets on somebody's mind, and they think they hit you up for a job. Like I got some random person called me today and was like, actually he'd seen me at Flappers a couple of years ago, and he comes around every couple of years and he's like, hey, I got this idea for a show, and so you never know if any of this stuff's going to go, but it's like, all right, he called me today, and
but listen, it is that you need so many irons in the fire. I mean, some things are going to drop off, some things will work. So many times. I mean, looking at Conan when I got that job 3 years ago, like. That job wasn't even on the radar. That was just a fluke and random. And
how'd that happen?
It basically, I was fortunate enough to do warm up on a couple of other TBS shows that Conan was involved with.
Yeah.
Dion Cole, Pete Holmes, they both had shows on TBS.
Nice.
And basically what happened was in 2015, at the beginning of the year, Jimmy Pardo, who was doing warm up at the time and had been doing it since 2010, called me and said, hey, listen, I need to take a few days off. I'm filming a show for Sci-Fi Channel. They know you here. Will you jump in and fill in for me? And it is that kind of weird scenario of like, never take a day off because you never know. And so I went in, I was, and it has nothing to do with Jimmy, but I was just a different style.
Yeah.
And they hadn't seen that before. Because Jimmy was the third warm-up that they had in their history. And all 3 guys, because I'd seen them all, they're very mellow and, kind of goofy. But I'm up in the audience high-fiving people, throwing out T-shirts, and that's just my style. And I think that they were like, oh, this is what we're interested in. So it was just doing 2 test shows or 2 shows for Jimmy that led me to get the full-time gig.
That's awesome.
It was the greatest call ever.
I heard Jimmy Pardo on a podcast years ago say, I think it was him that he was talking. It might have been Conan or another show where he said he literally would do 10 minutes of warm up and then that's it.
It's 15.
Yeah.
15 minutes, and then you watch the monologue, and then you can leave. It's the
Dude,
greatest.
How great is that?
It's, I mean, one of the best gigs I've ever had.
That's great. I mean, I'm comparing that to those 10 times I did random warm up, like outdoor stuff and indoor. I mean, it was just like
That outdoor stuff is brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
And again, like you said, the minute you mention game show, pilot, anything like that, I run for the
I
hills.
did one that was for like ABC where it was like I don't know, it was like things were it was like a best of type show, like moments you missed this year or something, and that was kind of easy. That was
That'd almost
easier.
be like doing like warm up for like a show like Battle of the Network Stars.
It was something
or
like that, where it was
something like
a lot
that,
of pre-tape
where
stuff, and
you just couldn't even Matt Eisman show American Ninja Warrior. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even think they have a warm up because they just couldn't. I mean, they're doing that show from midnight until 5 a.m. when it's dark, and there's probably so much setup in between each person.
What's your advice? Like, let's say I get a gig doing warm up. What's your run through advice? Like, what should I say I should prepare for? Like, what?
Well,
have
I mean,
some in my back pocket. Like,
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I guess it's all dependent on how long the show's going to run for. If it's a hour show, sure, burn them out. Goof around with them, just balls to the wall for an hour. But if it's for 5 hours, you got to pace it out. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what comics miss
Yeah.
is that warm up is warm up, stand up is stand
Yeah,
up.
because I think last time, like on some of them, I was kind of like trying to do my bits, and I'm like, they're not into bits. At least not in those longer bits.
I mean, listen, there's times if you're with a paid audience and it's 4 hours in, break out the bits. But they want just to be entertained. I mean, they just
riffing with them, right?
Riffing with them, goofing around. Who's from where? What's going on? Boom, boom, boom. Throwing in some jokes, and you just have to find that right balance of what's good crowd wise, what's good stand up wise, and listen, there's times where you have to readjust, whether the warm-up's not working, you jump into stand-up, boom, boom, boom. It's like, but some crowds, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be lighting your penis on fire, and they're so detached, they have their face in a book. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference, and I've done them all. I've done all of those shows where you're just being beat up, and America's Got Talent is a good example of a show that worked me hard but was so appreciative and so rewarding. You know what I mean? We go on the road to do the auditions, and I would work my ass off. But at the end of the day, you went back to the Four Seasons, which was where everybody stayed. They paid for all your meals. You got to travel per day. Like, boy, they did it right. So you're like, okay, I don't mind this.
Did you ever have interactions with Simon and stuff like that?
No, it was at the time it was
yeah. Oh.
Howie, Sharon, Piers Morgan.
Oh, okay.
It was 3 judges, and Howie was the nicest of them in terms of like always willing to have dinner with the crew, stayed at our hotel, would go grab drinks with everybody. He just liked to be part of the group, and one of the nicest guys.
Harry Mandel.
Yep.
That's great.
The best.
Did you do fist bumps with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was
cool.
on our podcast, The Gentleman's Dojo. He did it about 2 years ago, which was great. He didn't have to. He was super nice about it.
How did you get into comedy? Like you were a class clown or something, right? Like I heard you on another podcast. I love that story. You were something about shoes, and you had a teacher.
Oh yeah. So back in high school, I was kind of the class clown, the class screw up, goofing around. It was weird, Darren, because what's weird is in high school you would get a letter grade for your class, but also a citizenship grade, which talked about your behavior.
I would get that too.
Yeah. So 1 was the best, 5 was the worst. So I would always get 5s, which meant I was just acting foolishly the entire day. But my parents had a tough time getting upset because I would get like an A or a B plus a 5. So like, well, we have a hard time justifying this because he is getting good grades even though he is screwing around. But I mean, I'll never forget, I got suspended one time in high school because I called my science teacher a name. I called him a name, and he said, "What'd you just call me?" And I repeated it again because I wanted to get a laugh.
Yeah.
And got sent down to the office, got suspended. Now, I'll never forget this. We lived in a court with about 12 other houses, 9 of which all had kids that went to our school. So my mom was so cool that she never told my dad that I got suspended. She covered it for me. So it's probably like, I don't know, mid-March, early April.
Yeah.
I'm home with my dad because he worked afternoon, so he wouldn't have to go in until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We worked till midnight. It was just me and my dad. The court is empty. Not a car in sight, no kid in sight. And my dad had just no idea that I was suspended. Like, no idea. Why are you home? Where are all your friends? What's going on? And I'll never forget, there was a time when a buddy that I knew from high school, we were both same age, we worked at a sporting goods store, and
I'm sorry. Do you remember the name that you called the teacher? You don't want to say it.
Are we on?
Yes, we are recorded. No. I mean, you said you called him a name.
Oh yeah. I think I called him gay or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, you jackass.
Yeah. I think you're gay or something stupid, right? So funny.
I know
how silly it is.
I mean, some of the silly stuff. I got to tell you a real story. Don't forget that story that you're going to go
Okay.
into. Do you know what you're going to go into?
Yep.
So I can remind you?
Yep.
Okay, you got it, though.
Got it.
Okay. We had a teacher, I think his name was Mr. Buckheister, and I remember, like, he was easy to draw. Like, okay, so I remember, and he would show up late. So I remember I drew him on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
Because he always would wear a bow tie and he had big ears, and he was very easy to draw. He was like a character, and I can't even draw that good. And I remember doing that and then hiding the erasers. So he comes into class and he's like, and then after a couple of minutes, it dawned on him what everybody was kind of snickering and laughing. He's like, "What the hell?" And then he goes to erase it, and he couldn't erase it.
Right.
There's no erasers. So then he just took his sleeve and wiped it off with his sleeve.
And it was a picture of him?
Yes, it was a picture of him. And then, oh my God, everyone, we just burst out laughing, and I got in trouble for that.
Well, we did that. My accounting teacher had a locker in the front of the class, and I remember it had a portable lock on it. I remember pulling the lock off of it. It was one of those black dial locks.
Yeah.
Pulling the lock and putting another black lock on it and locking it. And he comes in, he's trying it. And then I yell out, "Try 24, 12, 8." And then he does it. And then, got in trouble. But he was the same teacher. So my buddy and I were in class together. We worked at a sporting goods store. And basically people were stealing from this store, like constantly. And I just remember my friend and I would get into fights because there were times where he would take something and didn't get me something, or vice versa, and we would be verbally fighting in class about this, right? So I remember one day we're fighting. He's like, "You worked last night, you didn't get me those K-Swiss I wanted, F you. It's turning ugly, and the whole class is hearing about this. So
because you guys had tunnel vision, you didn't even care about how loud you were getting.
Didn't even care. So the accounting teacher pulls me outside, and he said, "Hey, listen, I'm telling you this as a friend. I don't know what's going on with you guys. I don't care what's going on with you guys. All I'm going to tell you is this. You guys better be quiet, or you're going to get in big trouble. So just shut up with whatever you're talking about." I was like, "Thank you for that." I walked back in. Before I even sat down, everybody's muttering, "What's going on? What's going on?" Everybody's like, "What did he say?" And I stood up and proudly yelled, "He needs a size 11." And he was furious. He's like, "What do you like?" You know what I mean? But that was how ignorant you were.
It's so funny.
It was just,
he needs a size 11.
He needs a size 11. That was also the same class where somebody stole all the master tests. Somebody stole all the master tests, and
thank God they're on the internet now.
And then they stole all the master tests, and so he basically, while he was teaching, he'd be like, "What's the boom 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 boom?" And people would yell out false, like, you know what I mean, because that was what the answer was on the test. And then finally, like, people, because he made all essay tests. And people were just failing left and right. And they're like, "Why are these tests so hard?" And I was like, "Because Roberto got caught, because he was the guy that got caught with the tests." So, but it's so funny. When I was in grade school, 5th grade, this is years ago. This is like 1970, must have been 1980. No internet, no anything. Rotary phones in the house, no access to cell phones, whatever. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine, his dad was the head custodian of the school. So, because nobody knew what other people's phone numbers were, he had this booklet of every single teacher's phone number. And I remember he showed it to me briefly. And I remember I'm like, "Oh my God, there's Mr. Pulaski's phone number. There's Miss McElroy's phone number." And you're just, it's like the winning lotto numbers. It's the weirdest thing to see, those 10 digits written out on paper and their address. And I just, then I remember like calling them like late at night. And like, it's almost like when you saw a teacher at a supermarket. You're like, "Wait a minute, you live here?" Like, it's just very weird. But hearing them answer the phone, then hanging up because they had no way of tracing it. It's the weirdest thing ever.
Oh, you got a copy of those phone numbers. You wrote them down real fast.
Really, like, he was very protective of the book. You know what I mean? Because he didn't want anybody knowing it and didn't want it tracing back to him. But like now.
But you memorized the numbers or something?
I don't remember how I did it, wrote them down. Because the only way you could do is if you've written them down on paper. But just seeing those numbers on paper in front of you, you're like, "Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever." Because those numbers weren't readily available anywhere.
I know.
It's crazy. Yeah.
That is wild. I had a memory of elementary school the other day. There was this teacher, I want to say we were in 5th grade, And this is a low budget field trip. The field trip was to her house.
Really?
Yeah, and the whole class got to go to her house, and because the way it was, I guess she decorated her house like really like special with like little knickknacks and cool like decorations, and it was actually kind of interesting, like wow, like this room is my Christmas room, and then this room is my Elvis Presley room, and this theme for this is all fish or whatever the hell it was. And I remember looking back, like that's kind of a weird. I mean, it was cool,
but it is weird.
It is weird, like. Yeah, Mrs. Snavely, that was her name.
Really? That's a very low budget.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
hey,
like-
we don't have money to go to the amusement park this year. We're all going to come over to my house and do yard work. That's the idea. That's the idea behind it.
Is this kind of like a Karate Kid thing?
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
that's
We're
it.
getting me to do your housework.
Yeah.
Exactly. Paint the deck.
There was a rumor in high school in high school, one of the teachers, she had really big bosoms, and there was because she would pay teenagers. She would pay teenagers. She'd pay us. The offer was that she would pay to do yard work, and the rumor was that she would walk in front of the big window like topless.
Funny.
That was the rumor. I'm sure it's just because she had big. Yeah.
I'll never forget. This was
Of course, kids are like, I want to do yard work.
Well, listen, this was before any big scandals were taking place like they are now with the teachers hooking up with students. But I just remember one year we came back from summer and we're like, oh, what happened to Mr. K? Like, where did Mr. K go? He was the math teacher. And they're like, he ran off with, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And we're like,
Wow.
Are you serious? And it was, they ran off together. It was like, you'd never, ever heard of that. And I mean, now it's so.
The teacher ran off with this young girl.
The teacher ran off with a young girl.
What grade was she in?
Let's see, maybe high school, I guess. It was high school.
And you guys all knew the girl? You knew that she was like
100%.
She was like you guys' age.
I think even a grade younger than us.
You're like, what?
Couldn't
She
believe it.
ran
Like,
off?
and that was such a scandal. You're like, oh my gosh, are you serious that this is going on?
Wow.
Yeah. And this was before any of it. Now it's obviously so commonplace.
It seems like there's, maybe, I don't know what the real stats are, but it definitely makes the news more when it's like the female teachers.
100%.
Seems like there's a lot more female teachers getting busted for that, right?
It seems like it. Yeah.
They're always like, almost all of them are hot. I mean,
yeah, well,
it's
I'm sure
almost like a
there's-
cliche joke, but it's true though, right?
I'm sure
Like-
there's also, this is kind of a weird thing, but like there's it's always when there's like a crazy story about a missing girl that's out there, and yet there are always these good-looking girls. But it's like somebody had once said, like, there's missing people every single day that go unaccounted for. It's like, why did this girl in Iowa get the spotlight focused on her? Like, and I'm not saying we don't need to do that, but I'm just like, do you realize like it's happening every single day? That's what's nuts.
Yeah. Like right now, you know who's missing? My podcast listeners. Come on, guys.
They're nowhere to be found.
Let's tweet this link. Get people going. Let's get
There's
on board.
nowhere to be found.
The Pocket Party Podcast. Don't forget to put a review. And also check out Gary's podcast.
The Gentleman's Dojo on the All Things Comedy Network, which we love.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, we love it. Steve Byrne and I do it and have a great time. And, I got to tell you, we've been really proud of the guests we've been getting. I mean, we try to shoot for the moon and try to, ask people and hope they answer. And
I love that episode with the guys that gave you the book from the old 80s video games.
We and I told you this story. It's also funny, too, when you reach out to publishers and ask if their authors can be on your show. Most of the time, they'll say yes. They don't know if you're doing a podcast from Rockefeller Center or your backyard. They just don't know. So, we had on, I remember having on Robert O'Neill, who wrote the book about killing bin Laden, and him calling up, and he's calling you, and you're seeing him calling in. You're like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that fired the shot that killed bin Laden. Or, Bill Carter, the New York Times author.
What did from the SEAL Team 6?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, SEAL Team 6 from Robert O'Neill.
Wrote the book The Operator.
What did he, do you remember anything that he said in his story off the, I know I just sprung this on you, but do you remember?
Well, it is interesting because I will say this. I heard him on Howard Stern, and his stories are very, like, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be the same, but like he's very, very methodical about every single word he says. Like, almost like if I were to tell you the story about the teacher in the shoes, if I were to share that story 3 other times, it would be the exact wording, exact boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
I'm standing, I'm not sitting. Like, and I know that those stories are close to home, but I think he almost has to watch everything that he says.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that there's no f-ups at all. None.
Yes. Oh, I see. Because it's such a serious
It's
thing.
such a serious thing that
Government
there's,
thing
you
and
know,
military
you can't say
secrets
that
and-
you came in this way and then somebody recounts it. Oh, no, you came in on the left, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's very, very interesting how he puts it. But yeah, we've had some great guests on. I mean, one of my favorites, Joey Greco from the TV show Cheaters, Chris Hansen, Howie Mandel's done the show. It's just great when you finally, when you've been working hard to get a guest and they call you and you pick up the phone and then they're there. That's pretty cool.
That's cool
for me. Yeah.
I had this thought I'm going to ask you. When you said like SEAL Team 6, and I'm picturing like danger and helicopter and smoke bombs and blah, blah, blah. And,
it's all that.
recently I had Frank Cronin on the podcast.
Yep.
And he's great, man. He's from Ireland. He was in the Irish Army, and he talked about living in a tent for like almost a year. And he does all these adventures. Like he owned a business in Mexico, and somehow there was like a snafu down there, and he ended up in Mexican jail. And like, I mean, just his life is like totally different than mine. Like, what is something that you've done that's kind of like daredevilish or dangerous that somebody may not know? Like, you know.
Well, I mean,
'cause
I
I'm
will
not
say,
like that. I'm not like that kind of person. So even going on a roller coaster, I'm like, yikes.
for me, I think the proudest moment, which was also a dangerous moment, was going to Iraq to entertain the troops.
See right there.
I mean,
Wow.
you know, and that's something. Maybe I haven't been on a lot of TV shows. Maybe I haven't this. Maybe I haven't that. But like looking back on life and saying I had a chance to go to Iraq, or last year going over to South Korea. Like, I mean, to me, that's the greatest thing that I've ever
Yeah.
done. And you know, again, you're flying. You fly into Kuwait. And you're like, hey, we're in a safe zone. Everything's good. And then you fly over to Iraq, and they're like, hey, you know, at any moment you could hear a siren telling you to get down. You have 3 seconds. You're like, oh wow, we're this is the real deal now.
You're like,
100%.
I'm not on a movie set. I'm not doing
We're done.
Yeah.
We're absolutely done. Yep.
Wow.
Crazy. Absolutely loved it though.
That's
Loved
so
every minute.
cool.
I went with Scott Kennedy, who has passed, and Julia Lillis.
Man.
It was a blast.
That's so cool. And everybody's really happy to see.
They're happy to see you. They're excited. You know, they don't get entertainment. I mean, this is what they're doing. It's the greatest. Yeah. They love it.
If you're listening and you're in the service, thank you so much for listening
Of
to the
course.
podcast. And man, my hat goes off to you guys. It's like, you know.
And there
Wow.
are times too where you're literally performing in front of 4 people. It's like a makeshift show. 4 people showed up in the cafeteria and we're like, "Let's do a show. Let's do it." And you know, you just never know what your day is going to be like. I mean, obviously you have certain things planned, but then other times you're like, "Oh, let's just get this done." It's great.
Back to warm up. When you've done warm up for these shows, are you in a working state of mind, or sometimes are you like, oh my God, I'm a huge Prince fan and Prince was on the show today, or somebody like that? Is there
Both.
Is there something where you were, you know, you got to see like somebody who you admired, and because you're on the show, you're like being able to. Like,
I mean, you know, it's crazy. I mean, it's you know, obviously on a far less scale. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, listen, if you worked at a show like, you know, Ellen or Fallon, you'd be seeing like, you know, I was watching Ellen over the summer, and she had Bono on doing an acoustical performance with what's his name, the guitar guy. I'm like, what? But I remember Conan like a year ago had on Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I just remember watching them from the back. They sang 2 songs. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then talking to the band afterwards.
Do you remember?
Yeah, they sang like
when
September and Boogie
September?
Wonderland.
That's so
I'm just like,
cool.
oh my gosh, I'm getting paid to be here. You know what I mean? Like, when I used to work at Carson Daly, like, I remember having Green Day on, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting paid to be here and stand in the back. You know, it's those moments where you're like, oh, this is pretty awesome. Like, I get, even when I was working at America's Got Talent, like, just standing off to the side, and you're like, this could be the next $1 million winner that goes to Vegas. You know what I mean? That was pretty awesome.
That is awesome, man. Gary, I want to say it was great having you on the show. I always ask the guests if there's any words of wisdom, anything they'd like to share to our younger listeners.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say this, and you know this too,
Yeah.
because you are out there hustling every day, working your butt off. There's just no shortcuts. I mean, there really, you know, there's one beef that I have, and I hear this a lot. Hey, if you ever need a day off from Conan, let me know. It's like, well, first of all, I've gone in there sick many times. I've gone into shows when my dad was laying in a hospital bed, moments away from passing away. And, you know, you just go in. It's my job. And the minute I grab that microphone, it's just me and the audience. And you know, so when people are like, hey, you know, if you ever need a day off or ever need a fill in, it's like, guys, just go. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's problematic for me. I just don't, you know, I've worked my butt off to get to where I am. And there's no shortcuts. There isn't. You know what I mean? So I guess working hard. I mean, you see these people that release a YouTube video and they get famous, but, you know, I'd like to say that there's no longevity in that. I mean, I'm kind of being proven wrong because, you know, financially there is. But, like, you know, you see a lot of comics, and I see comics all over TV, and you're like, this guy's on TV? And you're like, yeah, but that guy's not going to be around in 2 years. It's just, they're not.
They're not. You know what it is?
No.
I saw, man, and I'm not even a huge Kiss fan, but I was watching Dan Rather interview Gene
Yeah.
Simmons, and Gene Simmons, man, that guy has some wisdom. Like, if you guys ever want to get motivated, go watch.
Yep.
Just look up Gene Simmons motivation on YouTube, and he's time and time again. He's so grateful to be in America. I mean, he was raised at a time when I guess it was like war in Israel, and they were very poor, and so when he came to America, he was like, wow. I mean, this is just like. He loves it.
He's
Anyways,
a businessman.
He is, and he said, like, you know, and it was great. One of the things that he said that I loved was Dan Rather goes, you know, Kiss doesn't have a lot of hits. And he goes, that's right, we don't. But you know what? We persevere. And he goes, it's not just hitting the hammer on the nail. You got to keep hitting that nail, hitting,
Yeah.
keep hammering. And he goes, for example, like Wang Chung, they had 2 number 1 songs, but where are they now? Everybody Wang Chung
Yeah.
tonight. But then you look at Kiss, and it's like they got, you know, another key to success is persistence. Keep it going. It'd be like if a person put out like a podcast and they put out like 3 episodes, and they're like, well, that failed. Nobody was into it. I quit. No, you got to.
Well, and have a lot going on, too.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And listen, I've
Yeah.
said this a million times. I know so many comics, you do too, who are much more successful than we are. They make a great living. They go to shows on corporate jets, boom, boom, boom. But they are miserable human beings. I you know what? I know a lot of those people. And at the end of the day, if you go home at the end of the night and you're not happy internally, it's all for nothing. It is all for nothing. The one thing that I love in this whole crazy comedy career is walking into any club, especially like the Improv that I feared so much when I first moved here, walking in and feeling like part of that family. Whether I work there once a month or once a year, but you know, coming together as a unit with everybody else is the greatest thing. And I've made some great friends that, you know, people. I just worked in Colorado with Mitch Fatel, and he was a guy 20 years ago that I saw performing in New York. I never met him before. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's great. And, you know, just the friendships are what keeps you going.
Man, you're right about that, right? About the Improv. I used to get so nervous
Greatest
going
feeling.
there, and I remember like not doing. That was like the one club I couldn't do well on. Like I would do great. I'd have great show at the Laugh Factory, great one at the Improv, of course, Ice House.
Yep.
But then on the Improv back in the '90s, it was like I get on stage, I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's like in my mind, maybe it was like I felt like there was too much industry in there or something, and back then I felt like the stage was higher. Or something.
So funny.
I know they lowered it.
Once you keep doing it enough, you have the I don't give a shit anymore.
Right.
I don't care.
It's just another night, man.
It's another night. I'm hoping it goes well.
Same thing
If
with the
it
Comedy
doesn't-
Store. Have you? I don't know if you played
No.
on the OR, but like that's another one that like will throw people for a loop because
Yeah.
it's a black box and like the lights are on you and you're like, whoa, like, and the more you get on it, you're the same thing. You're like, it's just tourists, people from. It's not, you know, we make it like this thing,
But truly, if you're not happy internally, forget it. It doesn't make it makes no difference.
You don't want to be the person overdosing in the mansion. You know, that's
No.
Yeah.
Be happy, and then everything will come around.
I find myself being happy even at the little things. Like, you know, I needed new glasses, and like
My
today,
gosh.
today I went to a couple different stores, and I finally went to the third one, and I'm like, this is what I want. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get these glasses. Like, I don't want to like settle for something that I don't want. You know, and it's
Of
like
course.
the simplest little thing. Like, you know, I kind of been putting it off. Like, I'm like, well, you know, I don't really need glasses. I can wear my old prescription. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I want glasses where I can,
of course,
you know.
makes all the difference.
Because I wear contact lenses, so I can get by without them. But it's like it's annoying.
have to
Like,
be happy.
I'm at home trying to watch TV, and I'm like, gosh, I can't quite see the screen.
It's the
and,
greatest.
you know, something as simple as glasses.
It makes if that makes you happy, that's
Yeah.
all that matters.
You know, I learned this from Steve Simone. Well, first of all, before I say that, when I first moved to LA, I remember it was very depressing because it's like a wake up call. It's like,
Yep.
okay, back in the line. Now you got to start hitting these mics, and somebody told me to write down a list of 5 things that make you happy every day, and I'd forgotten about that. And then Steve Simone brings out, you know, he's like, hey Darren, let's do a gratitude list.
Yep.
And I've been doing this gratitude list, and I'm helping a friend who went through a little bit of depression. I go, dude, listen, man, just write down just 5 things that you're thankful for, and it can be as simple as I'm thankful for air conditioning, Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
You know, having a food in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
You know,
it's whatever it takes. That's all that matters.
So words of wisdom on our way out.
There it
you
is.
Said, is be persistent.
Work hard.
And work hard.
Have a bunch of irons in the fire and be happy.
And be happy. Gary, you're the man.
Darren, I love you. You've always been a very nice person to me every time I've seen you. I've known you for a long time. And one of those crazy things that I don't get to see you enough or in a timely manner, but when we do, it's really like no time has passed, which is so nice. There's a few guys I feel that way about. Like I see Mike Young occasionally or a guy like Simone or whatever, and then you're like, oh, I forget how much fun it is to be.
You guys got to
person.
come see Gary do comedy. You're one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. And what I love about Gary, you don't take yourself too serious. You know, like some comics are like, this is, you know, you were on stage one night and it was in Burbank. And I remember I was like, I know Gary will say something. I know this is going to be funny. Like I purposely walked right in front of the stage like I was just like a random audience member.
Yeah.
And then you just started roasting me and it was hilarious.
I remember that.
I don't know if you remember any of the stuff
Yeah,
you
I do.
said. Do you remember some of the
I don't
jokes?
remember what I said, but I
Hey,
remember.
there's the Burbank Festival. Darren, you can see him at the Bakersfield Comedy Festival.
Yes,
Hey, Darren,
yes.
don't you have an album? I'm like, yeah, it's called The Party Continues. And you can see that at the 99-cent store.
Yeah, I was making fun. Yeah. Listen, if you can't, and it's funny to me too because when people ask me, hey, are you mad when somebody makes fun of you? I was like, me personally, I was like, I'd be the biggest hypocrite in the world. Like you can dump on me all you want. I could care less. You know what I'm saying? I also have to learn that it's also a fine line because some people can dig it a little bit more, but like some people, you know, Steve and I do the podcast and I had to pull back a little bit because it was getting a little hurtful. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you're dumping on, hey, you have no ticket sales, the numbers, like sometimes it hits too close to home.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah, you're right. If it's too close to home, it's
100%.
like, yikes, man. He's
Yeah,
like,
gotta watch
yeah,
it.
because you're like,
You're calling it out, and
yeah.
you know it's not good.
Yeah.
No.
I guess if it's self-deprecating, if they say it, then it's...
Of course, yeah. Well, thanks for having me. This was great.
Thank you. Pocket Party Podcast.
Yes.
You guys, thanks again for having... The more you leave 5 stars in a review, we get great guests like Gary Cannon. And if you see him, if you're at a live TV taping...
Yeah, Conan or Cool Kids.
And do one of his contests so you can win...
Can win a blank El Pollo gift card.
Oh, you said it right.
Yeah, El Pollo gift card.
Yeah, baby. All right. Thank you, guys. See you, Gary.
Thank you, Darren.
Cool, buddy. So, what are you off to now?
I am, let me see here. I'm going to go home because my wife's having problems with that dog, so I'm just going to go check. Make sure she's okay.
Well, look at you. You lasted till the very end. Thank you so much. Some people were like, I'm going to hit pause and come back to this. And then they got sidetracked by listening to another podcast. But you didn't. You were here to the very end, and I appreciate that. Once again, go to the details. If you want to donate, go for it. It's on this description of how to help out financially, like $1 or whatever it is. And I will give you a shout out. If you have a business, I'll plug your business. You can always send me a direct email or join the Facebook group, message me there. And what else? 5 stars and a review. It's so easy. You'd be surprised how easy it is. And do it on your friend's phone. If you have friends that have Apple phones, iPhones, say, can I see your phone for a second? Go to their podcast app, look up Pocket Party, slide all the way down, hit 5 stars. Boom. And then give a quick review where it says titled, be like, it's funny. For the details, just be like, I like this podcast, or a variation of that. That will help. All right, guys. Until next week, until we see each other again, Johnny Carson, that is wild. Remember, as my boxing coach says, all right now, when people leave, all right now, when the boxers leave, the pro boxers, she's like, all right now, don't hurt nobody. Okay, don't hurt nobody. And then when I leave, be careful. And that's what I want to tell you guys. Don't hurt nobody and be careful. We'll see you next week. Darren Carter signing out.
Everybody listen to Darren Carter. We all know he's the party starter. So if you want to listen to a podcast for free, then listen to The Pocket Party.
We're done with this interview.